Sarah Long, and I will be presenting on the topic of suicide prevention through the implementation of gun control. Before I present anything further, I want to provide a strong advisory that if you have recently experienced the suicide of a loved one, any suicidal thoughts, or even an extreme stress, trauma, this presentation may not be for you. Below are the numbers for 2 excellent resources if you do need someone to talk to, or even if you know someone who does. All right, I chose this topic because we often hear about the gun control debate framed by the media as something that only has to do with mass shootings. In fact, that is the only time that gun control really gets mentioned in today's news media. However, recently I heard a couple of statistics that made me think about the topic of gun control in a different way. Today in America, half of all adults know someone who has committed suicide, and half of suicides are committed using a firearm. As I researched this topic a little further, I found a recent report conducted by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, which found that the rate of suicides in this country has increased an average of 30% over the last 20 years. As you can see in the image on the right, some states have even seen these rates increase as high as 58%. To understand how gun control plays a role in this issue, we must first understand a few things about suicide. The CDC has reported the following information, which illustrates the stakes and cost of suicide in America. In 2016, there were nearly 45,000 suicides, and 22,000 of those suicides were committed using a firearm. Additionally, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in America, and it is one of only 3 leading causes of death, which is on the rise. It is also reported that suicide and suicide attempts cost $70 billion every year, which comes from the medical costs and loss of work. Another crucial part of understanding this issue is knowing the group of people most at risk for suicide. It is typical to assume that teenagers have the highest risk. However, those who are actually at most risk are white males in between the ages of 45 to 54 years old. Additionally, middle-aged men are also most likely to own a gun in America. In understanding suicide, it is crucial to understand why people commit suicide. It is commonly assumed that suicide is the result of a mental health problem. While of course those who commit suicide are not in a good place mentally, 54% of people who commit suicide have not ever been diagnosed with a mental health condition. This could come in part as a result of the stigma regarding talking about mental health issues. However, the CDC has also found that there were many other issues that those without mental health diagnoses typically shared. These are relationship problems, loss of job, finances, housing, and even a personal crisis. It is clear from this research that suicide is not solely the result of long-term suffering from a mental health condition. Instead, it is often the result of impulsive decisions as a result of recent events in a person's life. With this information about suicide in mind, we can now understand the research that demonstrates that rates of suicide are impacted by gun control. Research published in the Harvard Public Health magazine, shown on the chart to the right, illustrates that in states with the highest amount of gun ownership, we see a higher number of suicides using firearms, while seeing an equal number of suicides committed with other methods. These high rates may in part be because of other methods of suicide are less lethal, but a person who chooses to use a gun will die 85% of the time. Reducing quick access to firearms can therefore be a contributing factor to reducing suicide rates. Additionally, the research conducted on gun control laws found significant success in the prevention of suicide in states that had and enforced Child Access Prevention, or CAP, laws. These laws require that gun owners store their guns in safes in any home where children are present. Not surprisingly, though, these laws only decreased teenage suicide as guns were less readily available to children, but not adults. Research conducted on states with strict gun laws has also been proven to reduce suicide rates. These laws included requiring background checks, licenses, registration, etc. In order to reduce the rates of suicide, our country must start taking actions such as requiring that gun owners have a license and registration and that CAP laws be enforced. Furthermore, research should be conducted on reducing adult suicide, particularly as there are no federal funded suicide prevention programs for adults. Additionally, new technologies such as smart guns or laws that reduce access to handguns, which are the most commonly used firearm in suicide, may help provide support into laws that will be most successful at reducing suicide rates. Finally, it is important to note that while preventing suicide is a complex issue and firearms play a significant role in this issue, these measures do not ultimately mean preventing gun ownership, but protecting families from losing those they love to impulsive decisions that are more easily made fatal through easy access to firearms. If you or anyone you know is thinking about hurting themselves, please reach out to the suicide hotline number below. And thank you so much for watching my presentation.